In the quiet intervals between life and death, choices reveal strength, not in hesitation but in speed. The samurai way, as mastered in the spirit of Miyamoto Musashi, treats decision-making not as a mental debate but as a single stroke of the sword. To Musashi, the moment a decision appears, the correct one must be taken instantly, before the mind splits into doubt and potential outcomes. He believed that true wisdom lives in the body, not the wandering brain, a state where thought and action are one. This is not impulse but clarity sharpened through discipline, observation, and a calm spirit. In his timeless teaching from the Book of Five Rings, instant decision-making is the result of a mind trained to see the world without distortion and act without inner resistance. The sword does not ask, it simply cuts, and so should a warrior's choice. A decision should not be chosen in the moment of crisis. It must already exist before the mind fractures. Musashi taught that the instant the mind begins to analyze, compare, justify, or calculate multiple outcomes, the moment of truth escapes like water slipping from the palm. True decision-making is therefore not a process of thinking more, but a discipline of thinking less, until thought no longer stands between perception and action. The warrior does not split time into evaluation and execution. There is only seeing and doing, inseparable like shadow and form. Musashi's idea of instant decision-making comes from a deeper philosophy that hesitation is not the absence of confidence, but the presence of conflicting selves. The undecided mind contains at least two inner voices, the one that wants to move forward, and the one that wants safety, certainty, or proof. Every extra voice is an extra enemy. A samurai who carries debate inside carries chaos outside. Thus Musashi advised that the battle must first be won in the inner world. Only then can a decision strike outward without resistance. Instant decision-making in his style is rooted in the cultivation of Haijoshin, the ordinary mind undisturbed whether surrounded by tranquility or threat. A trained warrior maintains calm not because the world is gentle, but because the world is irrelevant to his clarity. Storm or silence, approval or danger, do not deserve dialogue. The warrior simply responds. But his response is not random. It is guided by a purity refined through lifelong discipline. Musashi was against impulsiveness disguised as speed. A fool also moves quickly. But Musashi did not praise the fool, he praised the master of timing. To decide instantly means to have spent thousands of moments beforehand sharpening the senses, disciplining the ego, refining judgment and cleaning perception from illusion. When preparation is deep, execution becomes fast. The arrow that leaves the bow quickly does so only because the bow was drawn fully and steadily before release. This is not haste. This is inevitability. To understand Musashi, imagine a man standing at a crossroads in a forest at night. The fearful traveler kneels down, lighting torch after torch to study each possible path, mapping where wolves might be lurking, imagining cliffs, dead ends, hunger, ambush, imaginary dangers not yet present. Meanwhile, Musashi would listen only once to the silence itself and start walking. Not because he lacks awareness, but because his awareness is already complete and instantaneous. He reads reality directly. No translation through fear, desire, outcome, or overthinking. Such a mind sees the path, not the possibilities. Musashi believed that the mind must be kept like a polished mirror. It reflects what is in front without distortion, judgment, magnification, or fear-based storytelling. A disturbed mirror creates monsters from smoke. A clean mirror only shows smoke. When the mirror is clean, the decision reveals itself instantly. There is no need to create options because reality already contains the only correct move. The warrior simply honors it. Another key principle in his teachings was that a warrior must learn to become comfortable with finality. Most humans fear decisive action not because they lack ability, but because they fear the death of alternate outcomes. They want to keep backup identities, the what-if selves, the maybe lives, the safe exits, the version that can retreat without humiliation, the one that can blame circumstances instead of choice. Musashi eliminated those identities one by one. The man who has already accepted death does not fear a final decision. He does not carry half lives in his mind. To decide instantly, one must train to think in singular lines, not branching trees. Musashi often compared strategy with swordsmanship. A blade swung halfway has no power, no direction, no killing potential. A decision formed halfway is also directionless. A samurai draws his sword only when he already accepts the outcome of his movement. Likewise, he makes decisions only when he is committed to the motion they demand. Musashi practiced a mental discipline where intent is fused with action the moment intent forms. He also warned that overthinking often comes disguised as intelligence, when in reality it is weakness cosplaying as caution. The man who overplans feels powerful, but he is not. He is merely decorating his doubt with logic. Musashi saw hesitation as a fog that expands the longer one stares at it. The way to defeat fog is not to dissect it, but to walk through it until it dissolves. The mind that is trained does not fear uncertainty. It respects timing more than certainty. Musashi believed that late certainty is useless, while timely action is victory. A warrior's training, as Musashi envisioned, is not only martial. It is perceptual, psychological, intuitive and spiritual. He trained to react before thought interrupts reaction. When a fly lands on the hand, some swat without conscious thought, not because they are emotional, but because the nervous system is trained to respond faster than thinking. Musashi wanted that instinctive responsiveness applied not only physically, but intellectually and strategically. The ideal state is where the brain does not negotiate with reality. The nervous system simply expresses trained wisdom. Musashi also observed that decisive speed intimidates the world itself. Opponents, fate, people, problems, challenges, all hesitate when the warrior does not. Most conflicts are not won by the strongest person, but by the least mentally divided person. Musashi noted that victory comes easier to the one who moves with a mind that has already decided before others begin to debate. The person who strikes with clarity interrupts the decision cycle of those around him. Decision speed becomes a form of psychological combat. The fastest decision disrupts the slower one. But how does one train such a mind? Musashi did not prescribe theater, meditation alone, or philosophy alone. He prescribed total embodiment. To decide instantly, one must live instantly. This means cultivating presence in daily life. Training the mind during eating, training it during walking, speaking, observing nature, facing difficulties, dealing with people, managing emotions, navigating stress. Practicing discipline in small decisions so that big decisions no longer require deliberation. Musashi would say a man who cannot choose instantly what to eat will never choose instantly when to strike. Hesitation is a habit formed in peaceful hours, not a failure that magically appears in crisis. Thus he practiced decisiveness in every ordinary moment to condition the mind toward immediate clarity. The samurai path does not separate dojo practice from life practice. The battlefield is not a place. It is a mentality carried everywhere. Musashi emphasized the strengthening of intuition until it becomes faster than cognition. Intuition to him was not an emotional instinct, but subconscious intelligence stored in the body through observation and repetition. The more one observes reality without mental interference, the stronger intuition becomes. Intuition becomes immediate because it doesn't take a detour through internal debate. Musashi trained to rely on a perceptive instinct that recognizes truth immediately and strikes immediately. He also warned against dependence on consensus advice, reassurance, validation, or committee thinking. Instant decision-making is an art of solitude. The samurai who consults the world for approval before deciding has already forfeited inner sovereignty. Musashi taught that great decisions are a practice of inner authority, not external negotiation. The warrior decides instantly because he owns responsibility instantly, without requiring the emotional comfort of shared blame or shared validation. Musashi also confronted people who idolized complexity. He argued that complex thinking has its place in preparation, but zero place in execution moment. Once the moment arrives, complexity must collapse into simplicity. Real choices at the moment of truth are not mathematically complex, they are spiritually singular. The sword strike that Musashi admired was the one delivered without trembling from self-argument, free from outcome obsession, free from fantasy simulation loops. Most people hesitate because they are hypnotized by imagined futures. Musashi trained to see the present so sharply that imagined futures lose authority. The undecided mind fights battles that do not yet exist. The decisive mind wins the only battle that does, the one in front of him. He saw that indecision is simply imagination running louder than reality, and instant decision-making is reality reigning louder than imagination. Finally, Musashi held that instant decision-making is a reflection of inner emptiness, not inner noise. Emptiness here does not mean stupidity. It means a cleared internal stage. The warrior has no cluttered internal cast debating the script. There is only one actor, the trained self responding directly. Decision and motion merge into the same instant. He wrote in the philosophy preserved in the Book of Five Rings that in battle, there is no second strike for regret. Thus, the samurai trains to decide immediately when he sees, not when he concludes. A conclusion takes time. Seeing takes none. A mind that has trained to see truth instantly decides truth instantly. In essence, Musashi's concept insists that the sword does not argue, and neither should the warrior mind. The battle is not won by probability management, but by eliminating the inner civil war long before the outer war begins. The man who has mastered instant decision-making has mastered himself first, so completely that the correct move no longer needs an introduction. It simply arrives, recognized and executed in the same breath. The swiftness of a decision is not born in the moment it is required, it is born in the long years before. Musashi's philosophy rejects the myth that speed comes from temperament, instinct, or natural boldness. A samurai is not fast because he rushes, he is fast because nothing remains inside him that can delay his movement. Just as a sword is not sharp by coincidence but by the relentless repetition of stone against steel, the mind is not decisive by chance but by deliberate forging. To decide instantly means to have prepared endlessly. Preparation is not only rehearsal, it is transformation. The iron does not become a blade by being hammered once, but by being struck until it forgets it was ever a lump of metal. Likewise, a warrior does not become decisive by making one dramatic choice, but by practicing clarity until doubt forgets where it lives. Musashi trained not for the battle itself, but for the dissolution of hesitation. People admire a lightning strike because they do not see the storm gathering. Musashi admired the storm more than the strike. Decision without preparation is luck. Speed with preparation is skill. The hand that moves quickest is the one that has trained longest. A man who waits for perfect knowledge before deciding will never move fast enough to matter. But a man who has already trained himself to interpret reality clearly does not need extra seconds. The decision is revealed the moment the situation is understood. Musashi's world is a world of timing, not safety. And timing is a sword that dulls when overthought. The samurai strategy teaches that the mind must make decisions like the body breathes, without conscious persuasion, without negotiation, without wondering if the air is trustworthy. This does not mean absence of intelligence, it means absence of interference. He believed that most indecision is not caused by lack of knowledge, but by an infestation of possibilities. Possibilities are dreams dressed as logic, and dreams are the slowest counselors. Instant decision-making requires a mind already organized, like an army that waits in formation long before the horn sounds. The general does not assemble troops at the moment of attack. The troops are simply launched. Preparation, therefore, is not anxiety about what may happen, but mastery over what always happens. Pressure, unpredictability, fear, consequence, conflict, outcome, sacrifice. The one who has prepared for everything does not panic at anything. Musashi also taught that speed is impossible when identity is unstable. The undecided person is undecided because he is divided. Divided because his sense of self is temporary, conditional, and addicted to comfort. One self wants glory, another wants rest. One wants risk, another wants escape. One wants to advance, another wants a guarantee written by the future. These selves argue at round tables inside the skull, holding councils while the world waits impatiently outside the door. Musashi had no councils. He exiled every unnecessary self and left one trained witness behind. Preparation in Musashi's system is about conditioning perception until it becomes untouchable by illusion. People hesitate because their eyes see options instead of reality. A mind that sees options sees fog. A mind that sees reality sees form, direction, consequence, and opening. Speed is not something pursued. It is something that remains when confusion has been burned away. Thus, the warrior prepares his senses to read the world without inner commentary. He learns to observe like a hunter, not a philosopher. The philosopher dissects tracks, the hunter simply follows them. Preparation also includes training the nervous system of the soul. Musashi believed that fear must be experienced, confronted, and exhausted long before the moment fear attempts negotiation. Men fail at instant decisions because fear arrives like an unannounced guest who still owns a key. Musashi leaves fear no key. He sits with fear in training, again and again, until fear realizes it cannot intimidate him. Fear does not disappear. It becomes irrelevant, like background noise that no longer interrupts the foreground signal. Only irrelevant fears allow relevant decisions to move instantly. He believed that preparation does not eliminate uncertainty. It eliminates the need to conquer uncertainty before deciding. The battlefield does not grant certainty, so certainty must not be part of the requirement. A samurai does not demand the horizon explain itself before walking. Preparation teaches movement despite incomplete knowledge. The untrained person wants the end before beginning. The trained person trusts the beginning enough to collapse the distance quickly. Musashi considered clarity something stored somatically, embodied knowledge, absorbed through repetition. When a man repeats thousands of decisions in training, small and large, deliberate and mundane, his mind begins to behave like the body, reflexive, efficient, undeniable. The mistake is believing reflex means unthinking. A reflex forged is wisdom compressed. Just as trained muscles remember movement without conscious instruction, a trained mind remembers decision without debate. Preparation means practicing judgment during calm hours so that judgment does not fail during loud hours. Musashi warned that the critical moment is not the time to deliberate. It is the time to express what has already been decided within oneself. A man who has not prepared is like a blade pulled from the sheath for the first time. Shiny perhaps, but untested, uncertain, unfamiliar with resistance. The sheath must know the sword, and the sword must know the sheath, or drawing it quickly will cause harm to the owner, not the enemy. Musashi practiced a life where thought converts to action immediately because action has been rehearsed infinitely in discipline. He prepared not only by fighting men, but by fighting indecision itself, deciding fast when waking, fast when training, fast in conflict, fast in withdrawal, fast in persistence, fast in silence. Decisiveness is a habit fed by ordinary moments, not born from extraordinary ones. So he made even the ordinary extraordinary in training. Preparation also includes stripping the ego of sentimental luggage. The ego is the slowest decision maker because it calculates applause, reputation, failure, judgment, disaster, praise, comfort, damage control, political outcomes, emotional aftermath. Musashi does not calculate applause when drawing the sword. Applause has nothing to do with survival or victory. In his view, most hesitation is ego protecting its alternate reputations, not the warrior protecting his life. Preparation includes killing those reputations early. Musashi also believed decision-making speed increases when responsibility is owned instantly. People hesitate because they want shared accountability. Musashi wanted no shared accountability. Victory is personal, defeat is personal, decision is personal, motion is personal. He preached that the one who decides must also accept instantly the weight of his choosing. Preparation means strengthening not only insight but accountability, so that consequences do not shock the system later. He also trained patience, which seems contradictory to speed until one understands Musashi. Patience is the womb of speed. Patience in training, observation, discipline, emotional control, mastery, self-confrontation, not patience in execution. Patience has a different battlefield. Training itself must be patient, decision itself must be immediate. The tiger is patient stalking the grass, but instant when springing. That instant is not impulsive, it is preloaded. Preparation also means understanding that the fastest path is rarely the safest in imagination, but the safest in timing. The man who delays loses initiative and is forced to react to reactions. The man who prepares deeply moves soon enough that others have nothing to react to. This grants a psychological advantage. To strike first, one must have prepared first. To decide first, one must have prepared before others even see the question. Musashi practiced preparedness as a form of mental hygiene. Every day he sharpened perception, dulled ego, exhausted fear, disciplined desire, mastered intuition, conditioned accountability, practiced timing, dissolved inner enemies, rejected illusion, and strengthened presence. When all this is practiced daily, the final expression becomes instant, singular, and unstoppable. An instant decision is simply the echo of years of preparation collapsing into one breath, one motion, one truth. Preparation is not a strategy for success. It is proof that success was already guaranteed in the foundation. The moment the samurai must choose, he does not become decisive. He merely reveals that indecision no longer exists in his system. The world believes it sees speed. In reality, it sees the final strike of preparation, arriving exactly when the moment opens, not a heartbeat too late, not a heartbeat too soon. Musashi would tell you that the enemy is not in front of you. The enemy is the softness you carry toward yourself. To master instant decisions, emotion must not be killed, but stripped of its authority. Fear, desire, anger, ego, sentimental hope, and imagined grief all speak quickly, but none speak. Clear eye does not swing his sword according to the loudest voice, but according to the truest one. Yet truth does not shout. It stands still and waits for recognition. Emotion shouts because it fears being ignored. Musashi trained his mind to move before feeling begins its theater. Most men pause not because they lack direction, but because their heart and ambition are holding private trials inside the mind. Emotion demands evidence, certainty, comfort, agreement, reassurance. Evidence takes time. Comfort takes negotiation. Reassurance travels slowly. Truth and timing do not negotiate, so the samurai does not invite negotiators into his decision. To move instantly means to have a heart that does not interrupt movement. Emotion slows judgment because it multiplies futures. Fear imagines 10 catastrophes. Desire imagines 10 rewards. Anger imagines 10 revenges. Ego imagines 10 reputations to protect. These imagined futures become ghosts surrounding the warrior, pulling at his sleeves when he tries to move. The samurai cannot run through ghosts. He must let them dissolve before stepping. To Musashi, the mind that is undecided is not cautious. It is haunted. Emotion that is attached to outcome becomes a chain. Chains do not help movement, even if they are golden chains pretending to be ambition. Musashi forged his decisions not in the corridors of what feels good or what might hurt, but in the courtyard of what is real right now. Real right now contains no speculation, only demand. The mind must answer demand before emotion answers desire. Desire is a slower compass than awareness. The samurai trains intuition until it becomes immediate recognition, not emotional impulse. Emotional impulse also moves fast, but it moves blind. Musashi was not blind, he moved fast because he saw fast. He saw fast because he judged from stillness. Stillness is the filter that removes emotional distortion. A mind that feels too much interprets too much. Interpretation breeds delay. The consistent mind reflects the situation like a clear lake reflects the moon, without commentary, without dramatization, without adding ripples of panic or greed. Musashi would tell a warrior to understand emotion by exhausting it in training, not indulging it in confrontation. You do not eliminate anger by pretending it does not exist. You eliminate its influence by confronting it until it loses stamina. The waves of emotional agitation are strongest in those who only experience them at battlefield volume. Musashi listens to them at daily life volume until they grow tired of commanding him. Most hesitation comes from the self-seeking emotional insurance. Musashi carried no insurance, because insurance assumes the possibility of retreat. The sword is not drawn with retreat in the mind. In combat, retreat is a leakage of intent. In decision-making, emotional insurance is also a leakage. Emotional insurance takes forms like, what will people say if I choose wrong? Or, can I mentally afford the regret? Or, is this risk admirable or embarrassing? Or, will failure shame the name I carry? Or, will this ruin the story I want to tell about myself? Musashi rejected stories. He only respected truth. Stories inflate indecision, truth compactifies it. Emotion makes you imagine the consequences too close and the opening too far. The samurai reverses this: see consequence clearly, but see opening more clearly. Most men see threat, imagine collapse, then negotiate with their legs not to step. Musashi steps immediately when he sees the opening, not the threat. Threat exists everywhere. Openings do not. Only openings deserve attention, because only openings can be acted upon. Musashi would say that emotions are like weather. They pass through you. They are not the sky. Most people make the weather their sky. Fear reigning means they postpone movement until emotional sunshine arrives. Musashi does not wait on sunshine. Sunshine and rain both move slower than timing. If you wait for emotional courage to arrive before deciding, you will always decide too late, and emotional courage may never come at all. Musashi made courage a posture, not a feeling that delays arrival. He trained to treat all emotional signals as information, not instruction. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of his philosophy. Fear provides information about self-preservation bias. Anger provides information about ego-seeking retaliation. Excitement provides information about desire-based blindness. Sadness provides information about imaginary loss exaggeration. Confidence provides information about clarity if it is uncolored, or arrogance if it is emotional grandstanding. In Musashi's world, emotion informs, it does not lead. The samurai leads himself. Instant decisions are impossible when you need emotions to validate them. Validation is slower than decision. A warrior who asks his heart to sign off before acting is a warrior who has surrendered hierarchy. The heart does not rank above the moment. The moment ranks above the heart. Thus the samurai positions emotion as a subject, not a sovereign. Musashi also warned that emotion creates inner crowds. The more emotional you are, the more invisible advisors you carry. Each advisor has an opinion. Opinion is slow, truth is immediate, indecision is democratic, too many votes, victory is autocratic, one trained self-responding. Emotional people are ruled by crowds they cannot see. Musashi ruled himself alone. Emotion has another weakness: it tries to protect imagined suffering more than actual danger. Imagined suffering is infinite. Actual danger is measurable. Emotional people prepare for imagined suffering by delaying decisions. But imagined suffering cannot be out-strategized because it does not exist yet. Musashi fought only what existed. What exists can be studied instantly. What is imagined must be negotiated endlessly. And negotiation breeds exhaustion, and exhaustion breeds delay. Emotion also exaggerates loss and decorates hesitation in logic. People call this overthinking, strategy, or caution. Musashi called it weakness with decoration. The samurai does not act when loss disappears. He acts when clarity arrives. Loss is not clarity's opponent. Confusion is clarity's opponent. Emotion produces confusion because emotion magnifies outcomes before magnifying truth. The disciplined mind magnifies truth first, outcomes second, emotion last. Musashi practiced a mental discipline where feeling does not begin until choice is already captured. When the choice is captured early, emotion has nothing to advise. It can howl, but it cannot interrupt supremacy. Emotional minds waste energy preparing for emotional aftermaths rather than real openings. Musashi never prepared for the aftermath because the aftermath is always the same. Regardless of scenario, consequences must be accepted, not negotiated. Acceptance is fast. Negotiation about acceptance is slow. Emotion slows the hand because emotion fears finality. Finality feels like death to emotional minds. Musashi embraced death long before others began fearing it. A man who has embraced finality does not pause at decisions. He knows all alternate selves die at every real decision, and he mourns none of them because none of them were lived anyway. Emotion cannot slow a man who has accepted identity mortality early. Finally, Musashi taught that clarity is instant, emotion is noise, noise is enemy, enemy deserves no invitation. A samurai who has mastered emotion does not become unfeeling, he becomes uninterruptible. When the moment opens, he does not ask emotion for courage, he does not ask desire for entitlement, he does not ask anger for justification, he does not ask fear for permission, he does not ask ego for reputation management. He simply moves from preparation-trained awareness. A warrior who can decide before feeling divides him wins not because speed is sharp, but because doubt has grown dull. To split-second decisions into emotional debates is to duel with yourself while the enemy watches from the tree line. Musashi did not duel himself. He prepared himself until the duel no longer required scheduling. Thus, his decisions arrived in one breath, singular, exact, unargued, and untouched by emotional interference. The art is simple in theory, severe in discipline, flawless in execution. Do not let emotion write your map when the world has already placed the path in front of you. Recognize the path instantly. Honor it instantly. Move instantly. The rest, feeling. Consequence storms human opinions. Are scenery behind the strike, never the source of it. Musashi believed the body is not a servant of the mind. The body is the co-author of mastery. To treat instinct and posture as lesser than intellect is to separate sword from arm. A blade may be perfect yet useless without the body that moves it. Likewise, a decision may be correct in theory, yet dead if the body hesitates to deliver it. Musashi did not think with his brain alone. He judged with his entire being, where breath, stance, muscle memory, intuition, and awareness fuse into the same intelligence network. The body must be trained until it speaks faster and truer than doubt. Most humans misunderstand the body. They believe it is driven by impulse and that impulse cannot be trusted. Musashi corrected this. An untrained body is impulsive, a trained body is wise. The fool reacts emotionally because his body has no discipline, but the warrior reacts instantly because his body has already memorized truth through survival experience, repetition, and deliberate conditioning. A well-trained body does not move in emotion, it moves in alignment. For Musashi, posture was not cosmetic. Posture is the external geometry of the internal mind. If your posture collapses under uncertainty, your decision will collapse before it reaches the world. A samurai must train his body to maintain calm structure regardless of psychological pressure, social consequence, or impending outcome. A body that is stable grants a mind that is singular. When stability is present in stance, the decision no longer passes through checkpoints of insecurity. The body says, "We are ready," and the mind needs no further confirmation. Musashi trained somatic intuition. Somatic intuition means intelligence stored within the body itself, instinct refined into expertise. When a swordsman practices 1,000 cuts, his hand knows the angle without thinking, his feet know the distance without measuring, his breath knows the moment without being asked. Musashi wanted this same reflex applied to mental and strategic decisions. Prepare the mind through logic, yes, but execute decisions through the readiness of the body. The body is the fastest courier. The body decides faster than the brain can argue. Consider how you catch a falling object without conscious instructions. The nervous system acts without debate because timing does not allow discussion. Musashi believed decisive mastery works the same. Recognition and action must live in the same micron of time. A mind negotiates, a body commits. Most humans ask the mind to commit without first asking the body to become dependable. Musashi did not wait for the mind to change. He trained the body until the mind no longer needed convincing. In his philosophy, center of gravity is spiritual before physical. He trained from the hara, the core, the seat of embodied judgment. He believed a warrior must learn to settle decisions not at the top of the head, but in the center of the body where fear cannot accumulate and doubt cannot echo loudly. Doubt lives in the skull. Action lives in the torso. When choice is processed through the hara, it becomes singular, grounded, immediate. Musashi would tell his students to watch hesitation carefully. Hesitation almost never begins as a thought. It begins as a physical reaction, breath tightening, shoulders lifting, stance narrowing, heartbeat climbing into the throat. The body sends the first signal of conflict, and the mind merely dresses it later as indecision. To move instantly, one must train breath first, because breath is the gatekeeper of timing. A breath disrupted creates a decision disrupted. A breath calm creates a path open. Thus, training breath was central. Musashi practiced breathing like a general sharpening arrows. Breathe calmly in pressure so that pressure never becomes command. When breath remains ordinary, the mind remains ordinary. This ordinary mind hijoshin is not emotional numbness but emotional discipline. The body that breathes calmly in chaos gives birth to decisions that strike instantly without emotional aftertaste. Fear may still exist in the room, but it does not sit at the decision table. Musashi's concept of merging body awareness into decision making also rejects softness. A body that flinches will produce decisions that flinch in translation. Many believe softness is kindness toward the self, yet Musashi saw softness as disorder disguised as comfort. A samurai must not indulge comfort during critical moments. Comfort teaches delay. Training teaches readiness. The body must be hardened not through cruelty, but through unwavering self-discipline. He believed that emotional impulses should be processed through motion, not contemplation. Contemplation breeds internal friction. Motion grinds friction away. When Musashi practiced swordsmanship, he practiced decision training. Each cut was a vote given to clarity, to discipline, to unshaking response. He prepared the body to know outcome without fearing it, to know consequence without dramatizing it, to know pain without giving it jurisdiction. Musashi also trained distance awareness through the body. Distance is decision speed. A person who overthinks imagines distance too far. The warrior embodies distance properly. When facing an opponent, the samurai does not think, "Will I reach?" He positions himself so that reach is already guaranteed by posture. In choices, this works identically. Stand close enough to your decisions that doubt cannot outrun execution. When the body has correct distance, no debate is needed. Musashi taught that presence is physical, not abstract. Awareness without presence is spectating, not participating. Participation demands posture. When a man stands with full presence, he can decide instantly because there is no backlog of inner conflict demanding psychological paperwork. If your shoulders are relaxed, your stance open, your breath stable, and your eyes observing without distortion, the mind does not need to generate options. The body has already expressed readiness to move through the selected path. The decision and body nod simultaneously. Another key dimension was movement, responsibility alignment. Many want instant decisions but avoid instant accountability. Musashi trained the body to accept the physics of consequence without negotiation. The body is honest, it cannot lie about results. A samurai who swings a sword fully also accepts fully the arc he sends outward. Likewise, a samurai who makes a decision instantly owns instantly the path that unfolds. Accountability must live in the muscles, not in the aftermath. Most men delay decisions because their body fears regret. Musashi trains to treat regret as an enemy that deserves no comradeship. Regret is born when alternate outcomes are worshipped inside the mind. But a body trained thoroughly does not worship alternate lives. It respects the only life that is lived, the one currently executing. Musashi practiced a no-flinch body so that his mind became a no-flinch decision maker. Musashi also trained adaptability through the body. Adaptability is speed. Rigidity is mental debate. Debate comes from imagining sequences too future heavy. Musashi kept the body nimble so the mind could remain final. When the situation changes, change should not surprise the mind, because surprise is merely lack of preparedness stored in the body. A body that is used to pressure, change, movement, risk, and unpredictability collapses uncertainty into timing rather than collapsing timing into uncertainty. Musashi also saw that physical training removes emotional fraud from the system. Emotion often disguises itself as intuition. Musashi distinguished the two. Intuition is awareness without distortion. Emotion is awareness with narrative. Narratives are slow because they require translation, interpretation, and emotional justification. Intuition stored in the body is immediate because it carries no storyline. It carries only recognition. To train the body means to eliminate narrative from judgment at execution moment. Musashi lived by sensory readiness. A samurai must train the senses to be intelligent before the brain becomes theatrical. If the warrior trains sensory reflex, eyes perceiving without embellishment, ears listening without simulation loops, breath remaining unbroken, feet planted for action, body maintaining openness despite consequence, then there is no mental fracture to assemble after the moment emerges. The decision is instant because there is no inner mistral demanding emotional clarity before execution. Musashi also believed that a decisive body teaches a decisive mind. You do not think your way into instant decision-making, you physically rehearse the state of instant readiness until the mind adapts to its speed. Most people train thought, but leave the body uneducated. Musashi trained the body until education became reflexive reality. Musashi would say, the sword does not separate from the arm does not separate from the breath does not separate from the moment does not separate from decision. If any part of the sequence is divided, the action cannot be instant. And if the action is not instant, the choice becomes negotiation rather than mastery. Thus, Musashi's teaching is this: train the body until decision no longer requires proof of possibility, emotional agreement, or future simulation. Let posture, breath, stance, and awareness become the silent generals of choice. When clarity and body stand aligned, the decision is delivered faster than doubt can rise from its seat. A warrior whose body has already recognized motion will always move before thought tries to bargain with consequence. Instant decision making is not mental velocity alone. It is whole being alignment compressed into a single breath, a single stance, a single stroke of truth, delivered without fear's permission or emotion's commentary. The warrior does not rush. The warrior arrives already prepared to move instantly. And that preparation begins not in the skull, but in the body disciplined into readiness. A decision must not branch into many roads. The true warrior does not scatter his spirit across possibilities. He concentrates it into one path with the same finality as a blade drawn for a single, unhesitating strike. Musashi taught that the moment of choice is not a tournament. It is not a council of futures. It is not a map drawn while wolves wait in the trees. It is a singular line of movement, owned fully, chosen immediately, traveled without apology, and executed without residue of alternate selves whispering behind it. Most men live internally like strategists juggling invisible scrolls. If I choose this, then this may follow, but if I choose that, perhaps another destiny may open. Yet what if destiny closes altogether? Such a mind may sound clever, but it is unstable. Clever minds hesitate loudly. Stable minds decide quietly. Musashi did not want you to be loud inside your head. He wanted you to be committed inside your bones. Commitment is faster than cleverness, sharper than logic, and more terrifying to hesitation than raw courage ever could be. He would tell you, a man who sees 5 options sees none clearly. But a man who sees one path sees one opening, and openings demand movement, not debate. Musashi's philosophy of instant decisions shape not just duels, but destiny. When confronted by a choice, the samurai must treat it like a sword strike. If the cut is split into 2 intentions, the enemy survives. If intention is one, the cut becomes unavoidable. Likewise, if a decision is formed while the mind still circles around imagined outcomes, hesitation breeds weakness, weakness breeds delay, delay breeds defeat. Musashi saw indecision as a small ripple that later becomes a wave that overturns the boat. Thus, a warrior must master finality of spirit before the moment arrives where the world demands finality back from him. The samurai does not carry backup plans as identity crutches. He may carry contingency as intelligence in preparation, but he does not carry contingency during execution. Musashi would say contingency and hesitation are cousins. One is strategic, one is emotional. But when execution moment comes, both must be silenced so that the strike may be single and undivided. Most hesitation is identity trying to cheat consequence. When a man makes a decision with one eye looking forward and one eye looking for an exit behind himself, he does not move fast. He merely shuffles forward slowly, tied to a past self he should have allowed to die already. Musashi believed that each true decision kills alternate identities instantly, and you must not grieve them, because those identities were never lived anyway. They are nothing but imaginary soldiers begging for imaginary safety treaties. Imagine a traveler crossing a bridge. The ordinary man crosses carefully because he fears the possibility of falling. Musashi crosses immediately when the bridge proves it can carry weight, not because he trusts the bridge blindly, but because hesitation increases the chance of falling rather than reducing it. The decisive mind moves confidently not through arrogance, but through timing, responsibility, body awareness, posture, preparation, and singular intent. The samurai path is not the absence of fear, it is the absence of fear becoming command. Musashi believed instant decision-making requires training the spirit into one-moment consciousness, where the mind does not project itself weeks ahead into futures that have not earned their right to exist yet. Most indecision does not happen in the moment of speaking. It happens in the moment before speaking, when the mind time stretches itself into imagined futures, checking emotional weather forecasts to see if courage will be sunny later or cloudy. Musashi did not check courage forecasts. He stepped now, because now is the only moment where choice has measurable strength. In execution, options are enemies, because options divide spirit. The samurai refuses divided spirit. Instant decision-making to Musashi is the mastery of Iken Hisatsu. One look, one life, one strike, one kill. But in the mental discipline of choices, the kill is hesitation, not human life. You kill hesitation by refusing it. Multiplication of futures. Hesitation wants attention, doubt, reassurance, external commentary, time, negotiation, emotional comfort, identity insurance, probability analysis, future simulation loops, outcome worship, late-night risk debates, social validation, ego protection, emotional applause, regret, pre-experience trials, fear-based committee thinking, comfort persuasion sessions, consensus addiction. All these are decision-slowing parasites Musashi refuses to host. In his philosophy, if the mind hosts even one parasite, the decision will limp in translation. Musashi taught that the correct decision must feel like instinct recognized, not risk conquered. Conquering risk takes time. Recognizing truth takes none. Truth attended instantly becomes action delivered instantly. Most people try to conquer risk emotionally in the moment. Musashi conquers it in training long beforehand. He prepares so deeply that decision finality persists whether the opponent is fate, conflict, consequence, threat, or unpredictability. The trained mind does not worship the future. It commands the future by moving before hesitation can rise to cloud the moment. He would say, "Do not plan your strike while striking, plan it long before." In striking becomes singular. To Musashi, decision-making is a form of mental swordsmanship. When you are mentally undisciplined, decisions divide like bamboo splitting under stress, jagged, loud, uncontrolled, injuring the path rather than clearing it. But a disciplined mind splits nothing. It becomes straight like an arrow shot without oscillation between targets. A decision must have no oscillation, or it loses, killing geometry. He advocated that a warrior must build a mind that decides like water flows downhill, without persuasion, without resistance, without negotiation, without conscious friction. But this flow is not sloppy. It is directed by gravity of truth. Decision-making gravity must be personal, internal, sharpened and owned, or the flow becomes chaotic. Musashi did not tolerate chaos. He tolerated one-path awareness. He also taught that indecision is not thinking too slowly. It is thinking too much simultaneously. The more outcomes you hold in the mind at execution moment, the slower you move, because each outcome demands emotional justification, protection analysis, rescue operations before they have even happened yet. The samurai refuses rescue missions for futures that do not exist yet. He only rescues timing for the only path he must take now. Musashi would tell you that regretting alternate outcomes is like polishing swords you'll never draw. It is wasted metal and wasted spirit. A samurai accepts that paths not taken are not lost. They are never his to begin with. Ownership begins only when movement begins. Movement begins only when decision is singular. Thus, you must commit instantly when you recognize, not when you feel ready. Feelings may never be ready on schedule. Recognition is always on time, because timing does not wait for emotions to put on armor. To move instantly, the body and mind must stand aligned like a forged weapon. The body must not ask the mind if regret will be painful later. Pain is an outcome decoration. Decoration has no place in execution. Execution only needs opening, distance, motion, moment, and clarity. And clarity must be sharper than emotional theater. Musashi also warned that indecision expands the decision window so long that the opponent begins to influence it. In a duel, the one who waits gives control to reaction rather than initiative. Musashi never gave control to reaction. He moved before the opponent finished imagining his own movement. Decision speed is psychological warfare, not emotional warfare. The one who decides instantly disrupts the decision loop of others around him, causing hesitation in others because hesitation senses dominance in those who are unshaken by many-path thinking. A man who decides with singular intent becomes a psychological blade drawn. You may ask, how does one train such a mind that chooses instantly without branching? Musashi answers, by practicing finality until finality does not shock you in large moments. Decide quickly when waking. Decide quickly in training. Decide quickly in pressure. Decide quickly in withdrawal. Decide quickly in persistence. Decide quickly in silence. Decide quickly in heartbreak. Decide quickly when choosing direction. Not random direction, true direction recognized. Do not negotiate in the moment. Negotiate with yourself long beforehand in training until training kills negotiation need. Become a man who does not ask if consequence will shame him later. Shame is ego decoration. Ego must be trained dull early so it cannot beg for reputation protection when a true decision forms. Reputation protection is slower than decision. The samurai protects responsibility, not reputation, because responsibility lives in the moment. Reputation lives weeks ahead in people's imaginary judgments that do not matter right now. Right now is the only battlefield that has jurisdiction. Musashi also taught the danger of emotional nostalgia toward futures that might feel more heroic or less painful. Futures are slower counselors than moments. The samurai must reject emotional nostalgia at decision moment. He sees future clearly only once in preparation, never in execution. Execution must only serve the moment's door that has opened. Doors do not open twice. Timing does not knock twice. Musashi believed that choice is not ultimately mental, but existential. A decision must be formed without consulting fear or desire for permission. Permission-based decisions always move too late, because permission is a leash held by emotion. Samurai doctrine teaches no leash. The samurai moves instantly when truth is recognized. Recognition must be immediate because timing is merciless. He also trained accountability somatically. Accountability must live in the muscles, not in the aftermath. A man who swings fully accepts the arc he sends outward. Likewise, a man who chooses instantly owns instantly. Ownership must be instant or it becomes a delayed burden that breeds regret later. Musashi does not negotiate with regret. Regret is a ghost for alternate selves already dead. He kills ghosts early and walks forward without mourning imaginary soldiers. Decision-making gravity must be personal, sharp and owned undivided. Undivided because all extra inner voices are enemies. The decisive mind has no democratic voting session. He carries no committee. Committees are slow. Reality does not vote, it demands. The samurai answers demand immediately. Do not train to defeat uncertainty. Train until uncertainty does not interfere with timing. Musashi's way is simple, harsh, severe. Forge, do not let options divide you. Let preparation sharpen you. Let posture stabilize you. Let timing command you. Let truth guide you. Move when the path reveals itself immediately. The fastest decision is not rushed, it is unhindered.